Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everyone. Welcome on our webinar that will talk about how to keep your network secure and running for home office users. Our panelist today is Pavel Minarik, our CTO. Hi, Pavel, how are you?
Hi, Arthur. I'm fine. How are you?
Not bad, thank you. Please do feel free to send us your questions or comments throughout the call. Or the session. You may use the chat or question tabs for this purpose. We will try to answer all your questions whenever possible during the session and also at the end. And without further ado, let's begin. It's not really the easiest thing for me to start off a topic like this because we are in the situation that we are at that I don't have to remind us of. And we as a company actually went through what many of you have been through. We've sent all of our employees home, as you can tell by our backgrounds, and that was to protect their health. Now, there were many things that have changed in terms of our network infrastructure, and while we were dealing with these issues, we actually observed a couple of things that we wanted to share with you today. First of all, let me say that home office is not a new thing. It's a long-term trend that has recently escalated. But here are some statistics. By 2030, the demand will rise by 30% due to younger people joining the workforce. But we also see that 971 of organizations, at least survey in this report, already have established home offices as a common thing. So it's nothing really new, but obviously things are escalating now. So what are the changes? What is changing in the recent days? We see that there are new policies that have been very quickly created and raised. Obviously, we have no business trips, depending on the country, but in majority of the countries, the situation is the same. We have no meetings with external people in person, at least. We obviously do over video conferencing, and we have increased number of home office users. In our case, it is actually entire company that now is working from home office, at least as we speak of headquarters. And what are the impacts? Obviously, more audio video communication, much more utilization of different cloud services that we use. Higher load on internet uplink, depending on whether you use VPN or not, and definitely more VPN traffic and more utilization of VPN. And as I mentioned, we were going through some of these changes ourselves, and Pavel has created a few screenshots of our own environment, and he's going to share with you how numbers and statistics look like in our case. But we have come up and created a set of about 12 recommendations for all companies that are struggling with higher bandwidth utilization, VPN utilization, etc. What they can do in order to protect their networks, in order to keep them running as smooth as possible. And Pavel, I believe that you want to spend more time today on the first of these three categories, which is securing sufficient VPN capacity. But also there are other topics, we'll get there, but let's start with the VPN.
Yeah, sure. We were thinking how we can contribute to the IT community and how we can share our experience that we have in this topic, and also how we can show how Flowmon can help you with understanding your network traffic patterns, how this changed by increased use of VPN, and also we would like to show how you can pay attention to threats, to security risks. And we don't want to do this on some artificial examples. So I was thinking, like, why don't we show what changed in our environment, because we are also an IT company like you are. So we do have users, we have sales, we have marketing, we have development, we have support team. So we have different roles in the company that use the environment in a different way. So I've decided to show you a couple of examples from our own environment, what we have experienced. So let's go back like 1 week. So in Czech Republic, the decision about quarantining the people and about really shutting down or slowing down the whole country was made, I believe it was like 12th or 13th of March. So Friday, 13th of March, it was for us the day when we also decided that all the employees should stay at home office. And on the same day, we were dealing with internal IT situation, answering the question if our VPN will have enough capacity, which means, do we have enough licenses for concurrent users to be connected at the same time, because we expected growth of VPN users by 3 times. We were also checking on hardware resources. So what's going to happen if we triple the number of concurrent users working over VPN? Is our hardware actually sufficient for that? And we also looked at our uplink utilization, but in fact, this was no issue for us, as people will simply go home, they will use their own internet, they will consume their own bandwidth, and they will actually free a lot of bandwidth on our company side for VPN traffic. So for us, the uplink utilization was no issue at all. And we also knew that
sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in. Can you lean over to your microphone a bit or speak up a bit? We're missing some words. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll try to do so. So with the uplink, the situation is that we are heavily using software as a service applications and cloud applications. So many of our users, they don't need to actually use VPN at all to work. So the whole sales team, marketing team. So when they go for home office, they don't actually need VPN to access those resources, which is good effect on the uplink utilization. And last, what I wanted to mention is minimizing the bring your own device risk. So when people will access your VPN, your network environment, they can do this also from devices that are not under the control of the company. So you actually cannot enforce a specific policy on that device, which means you need to pay more attention to proper logging and network monitoring and anomaly detection, what those devices are doing in your network. So that's like a general introduction and a set of recommendations that we've built and that we have prepared as a content. Arthur will speak more about it by the end of the presentation, because this content is already available for you on our website. What I want to do, I want to share with you a couple of examples and couple of statistics from our own environment. So we are obviously using Flowmon to measure our own network traffic and to analyze what is happening. So this is an example of a specific, one single specific day of our environment, where you can see how our VPN traffic looks like. So As you can see, it's usually pretty low in terms of bits per second, with certain traffic spikes that need to be managed as well. And you can also see that the one part of the traffic is like double of the LAN part of the traffic, which basically means that traffic of those users that goes to the internet is routed through the VPN. So that's like two options how you can have your VPN configured. It will just route the traffic to your company, or it will route all the traffic, including the internet traffic, which means that you can apply your company security policy and security measures on that internet traffic as well. So you have better control, but it also means that you are consuming more bandwidth on your uplink. So that's a decision that needs to be made, and it might be a trade-off between the level of inspection and visibility you have compared to bandwidth utilization. Also, what you can see is traffic statistics to our VPN based on individual countries. So we obviously know in which locations we have our colleagues. So we have this basic check if only expected countries are connecting to our VPN, are trying to communicate with our VPN, so we can detect, I would say, basic malicious activity, and we have basic statistics on the country distribution as well. So a couple of highlights. I think I covered some of them already. What I would like to stress is that this is really just monitoring. That's not a security measure. So we will also discuss some recommendations on keeping your traffic secure when using VPN. What I would really stress here is adoption of cloud applications. This is something that helps us a lot, as many of our colleagues, they don't need a VPN at all to work. So for many people, we just provide, here you go with a laptop, fresh Windows 10 installation with a configuration that we want to have there, with a basic set of applications like Microsoft Office if they need for their job, and that's it. Then they just log to a cloud solution that we use, and they have access to all the emails, data, CRM system, everything. So that's really something which enables us to have our IT, I would say, in a lightweight mode or in a lightweight approach, and we don't need to equip all our users with VPN access.
Pavel, if I may, I have a question here from Jason, and he's asking how to solve flow double counting in Flowmon solution. And I believe this is related to the first screenshot that you showed, and numbers that may be, and volumes measured that may be affected with a duplicate flow record. So how can we solve this?
There is a question if it's really duplicate flow records, so then the measurement would not be right, or if it's really a double traffic because of the use of a VPN and because of routing the internet traffic through VPN. So in that case, it's not double counted flows, it's really the traffic is there really twice. Once as it goes from the user to your company, and second from your company to the internet. So this needs to be distinguished. If we are talking about a configuration issue that we are measuring double traffic, or if there is really a double of the network traffic in the network. And obviously in first case, it's difficult to answer that without understanding the specific situation, specific configuration. What I would try to, of course, avoid is mirroring the traffic in a way that I have duplicates going to probes. And if this is not possible, we actually have a pretty new feature that's coming in Flowmon 11 and Flowmon 11.1 that can be used, which is a packet deduplication. So probe will have the option to deduplicate packets. On the collector side, it's a matter of how you configure the profiles. So I believe that there is a way how to configure profiles to avoid duplicate traffic. And if not just Jason, but if anybody needs help with this, I suggest to contact our support team, and my technical colleagues can look with you on your specific configuration and can help to figure out how to avoid these duplicates.
Thank you, Pavel. And one more question from Miloslav, whether we can actually monitor the structure of the traffic on the VPN to see what types and kinds of communications are in there. And he's specifically talking about some problems with firewall and blacklisting some traffic and some not. So being able to actually see what kind of traffic is in there.
That's tricky, because we from the home user side to the VPN concentrator to the firewall to the device that is terminating the VPN, we can only see a single session that's established between the user and your firewall or VPN concentrator, because the traffic is encrypted and probe is not going to see inside. But then when the traffic is decapsulated by the firewall or VPN concentrator from the VPN tunnel itself, it is possible to measure what is inside. Of course, this depends on the capabilities of the firewall, if it can pass the traffic to the probe, if it can generate the flow data. And then what you can monitor in detail, and what I'm going to show you in the next screenshots, is monitoring of that VPN traffic in your internal environment, because then the traffic goes unencrypted or goes unpacked from the VPN tunnel and is identified with some internal IP address that is assigned to the user. So then you can track all the traffic of that specific user that's accessing your environment through VPN in your internal network. Any more questions, Artur?
We do have some more, but I think we'll use them for later when they're more relevant to the slides that you have. So please do continue. Thank you.
Okay, so next example, what I have here is again real from our own environment. So it's no demonstration, and it looks like a security incident. So what we see now is a device in the internal network that is exposing a behavior of a malware infected device or of an attacker in the network that's trying to get an unauthorized access to a specific server in our environment. So with Flowmon ADS, you have all the details about the device, so you understand the IP address, MAC address, user identity, and so on. So you can identify the individual device, and you can also identify and track the VPN traffic that's related to the device. So I hide some IP addresses on purpose, but in general, what we understand is a related VPN traffic where we have a specific user who is working with that device on a Windows remote desktop protocol. So he's basically logged to that device in the network and is working on that device through VPN. So this really looks like something you would like to be reminded of, or you would like to have this event detected and reported. So we took this as an incident and we did our internal investigation. We have confirmed that it's not a security incident, but it's an operational issue, because we have found on that workstation in our network that there is some messed up code repository client that somehow lost this configuration, and it was exposing to the network very same behavior as a malware infected device or malicious device in your network would do. So on this scenario, I tried to demonstrate how you can use Flowmon to detect potentially malicious activities in your network, how you can understand the relevant network traffic context around the device. And of course, sometimes you need to go further, you need to check the device, you need to check some logs. You will not solve completely everything from the network logs itself, but you will get the detection, you will be pointed to a potential incident that you have in your environment, and you can take it from there. Any questions, Arthur, that you collected?
Maybe Pavel, a question from me. How would you solve this situation? Is it a matter of doing false positive or actually making some adjustments to the client station itself?
Yeah, that's something you need to solve on the client station, because the detection is correct. It's not expected behavior in the network. The origin of that behavior or the reason for that behavior is not a security issue. It's a configuration issue, but it's definitely something that you need to solve on that workstation directly, not in the network itself, or not by configuring a false positive.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no specific questions, I think we can continue with performance monitoring. I understand that in this current specific situation, performance is not of top importance. It's a very, I would say, unexpected situation that you have the whole company working over VPN, so you can excuse some delays and some performance degradation because at least everybody is working. But anyway, we also keep track on the network performance during these days to make sure that everything is working properly. So what you can see at the moment is our regular users who are connected to VPN, and then they are using remote desktop to go to their workstations and then continue their regular work in the company environment. And this statistics shows average round trip time, which means the network delay, which means time needed for the packet to go over the network. And we can now make sure that there are no bottlenecks, there are no issues on the VPN side.
Pavel, there was actually one question that I was saving for now, and there was how to monitor SaaS applications and whether the same that you just presented can be done for SaaS applications.
Yeah, that's difficult, because you can monitor SaaS applications with Flowmon from the perspective of the network where you have deployed Flowmon Pro. So let's say you have your company headquarters, you have 100 users there, and they are using, for example, Salesforce. So it's not a problem to track what kind of experience level they have. You understand network round trip time, you understand application server response time, so you distinguish between network delay, you distinguish between application delay, you measure retransmissions, so you know like packet loss and delay caused by that in your environment. But when your users move to home office, that's lost. This kind of capability is lost because you don't track that specific traffic any longer. So for a user sitting at the home office, going directly to the cloud application, you have lost the visibility and you lost the capability to measure what kind of performance he is experiencing. That's true, and it's nothing you can do about it. I mean, unless with like traffic monitoring approach using probes or using flow data from your environment. Does it make sense, Arthur? Does it answer your question, even if it's not a positive answer?
Well, hopefully it does. Hopefully it does to the person who raised it, but to me it makes sense. Thank you.
What you can do as an alternative is to move to some kind of active monitoring, active testing. So in our product portfolio, we have a module called Flowmon APM Transaction Generator. And that's something that you can use to simulate a user behavior. You can define a scenario, and then Flowmon Probe or collector or whatever Flowmon device with that module will take that scenario, and every, let's say, 5 minutes, it will go through that scenario. So it can log to that cloud application, perform some actions, and it will measure the response time. Of course, it will measure the availability. It will also measure what kind of response was provided, if there are no errors, if it matches the scenario. So this way you can actively monitor the performance and availability of software as a service application. But obviously this is synthetic monitoring. This is not a real user experience from the perspective of each and individual user in your environment. But of course, it's better than to have nothing. Okay, so let's move on to some wrap up and some highlights. What we didn't talk about yet is administrative readiness. During last week, I had a couple of talks with our customers, with some of my colleagues from other companies, and we have seen a pattern of companies who are used to home office, who are used to remote work, and companies for which this was completely new experience. So they have users without VPN credentials assigned, users that were not trained to VPN, even users that don't have laptops to be mobile. So I've seen a couple of companies that were not administratively ready to this situation at all, and it was for them and for their IT departments very, very, very painful. Then there is the aspect of performance and capacity that we have discussed. I think we don't need to spend more time on that. And the last topic is security, where I want to stress one very important thing: two-factor authentication. You can find on the internet many reports and many statistics that claim that VPN access is one of the most common way how to get compromised. You probably remember the story of Avast from last year, where they experienced an issue with VPN access. And I know from last week a company that after moving to home office, after moving heavily to VPN access, they got compromised immediately after that. So really, two-factor authentication for VPN access is something that you have to deploy, no discussion about it. Plus, of course, if you can route the internet traffic through VPN to apply security controls, it makes sense, let's do it. and of course pay attention to the network traffic from the VPN. Make sure that you monitor it, that you detect anomalies, and also collect logs from VPN, store them into log management for, you might need to analyze them in a week or two, what happened, that user was connected, was not connected, when it happened. So these logs are very useful as well.
Thank you, Pavel. Can you please lean over the microphone again, please? So that we can hear you better. Thank you.
I think that's all. So do we have some more questions?
I've managed to answer most of them in the meantime, and because we are running out of time, let's carry on with the presentation. If there will be any standing questions, we'll answer them after the session as well. But what I wanted to stress is that everything that we faced when we were dealing with migration of all of our users to home office has actually been written down by Pavel in this article that you can read on our blog. So feel free to go ahead and have a look. We will also send you a recording of this webinar, so you can listen to it again, and we'll send it to both attendees and absentees. Related to all of this content, to the article by Pavel and to this webinar, we have 2 how-to guides. So those of you who are using Flowmon today already can use these to do 2 things. One how-to guide is more related to security, and that's again Pavel's work, and he was demonstrating how to do incident analysis in Flowmon ADS. And one is more related to the bandwidth utilization monitoring and performance management part, which is a step-by-step guide to tackle the bandwidth utilization and VPN utilization problems, and how to analyze them in Flowmon. With that, thank you very much for all your questions, for your attendance today, for your time. We hope you and your families can stay safe, and hope to see you soon on one of our sessions. Thank you, Pavel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.